We're trying to figure out when the last time we were actually here in Milwaukee in too long. Too long. So welcome to the Roll with the Punches tour.
Hello, classic rock fans. I am reporting a couple of days after seeing Bryan Adams and Pat Benatar play a concert at the Fiserv Forum here in Milwaukee. This was the first time I've seen Bryan Adams in concert and the third time that I've seen Pat Benatar. The concert was held at the Fiserv Forum here in Milwaukee, which is where our Milwaukee Bucks play, and although that is a great venue to see a concert at, unfortunately, I think it might have been the wrong venue for this concert because there were a lot of empty seats. There were so many empty seats that the entire upper level of the show was curtained off. And everybody who had bought tickets in that upper level were upgraded to the lower bowl. And that included me. So when this concert was initially announced, I remember checking tickets and seeing that the prices were a little high for my liking, so I decided to hold off. And I'm glad I did, because earlier this summer, this show was included in a Ticketmaster sale, which had tickets for $30 all in, and I bought a ticket for a relatively good price, considering we're talking about Ticketmaster here. So I get to the show and go up to that upper level and find out immediately that I am being upgraded to a similar seat, but now in the lower bowl. So there ended up being quite a difference between what I paid to get in the door and what the original price of the seat I sat in was set at. So getting a small victory over Ticketmaster like this put me in a great mood at the start of the show, and I'm happy to say both artists kept that great mood going the whole night through. This was a really fun show. So let's dive in and talk about Pat Benatar's set first.
Hello, Milwaukee. How are you? Everybody good?
Okay, so I've seen Pat Benatar twice before. The first time was all the way back when I was in high school in 2005 at the Wisconsin State Fair. I have almost no memories of that show because it's over 20 years ago and I didn't take any pictures. And to be honest, I didn't even know her music all that well when I went. I know I enjoyed the show, I just don't have any specific memories from it, which is kind of crazy to think about. Luckily, a number of years later, I got to see her again. I got to see her on a 3-act bill at the old Bradley Center here in Milwaukee. She played in between Loverboy and Journey as part of Journey's 2012 tour, and she was great. I thought her band played a really strong set. I heard all of my favorite Pat Benatar songs, and they were a perfect band to be on a bill with Journey. So that was part of a really fun 80s night at the old Bradley Center. A quick pet peeve. Now, I've been describing these shows as Pat Benatar concerts, but if you've seen any posters for her band, you'll notice that she is not billed as just Pat Benatar. She's billed as Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo. For those who don't know, Neil Giraldo is her husband and principal songwriting partner. They're a great rock and roll couple, but sometime around 2000, they decided to start billing themselves as Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo. And I know I'm going to sound like a jerk when I say this, but I am not crazy about this. These albums that they did together back in the 80s are not billed as Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo. It's just Pat Benatar. So why all these years later they felt the need to put Neil's name on the poster as well confuses me. There are all kinds of bands that have essential members that don't get their name in the billing. So why Pat and Neil decided to put Neil's name in the billing has always rubbed me the wrong way. And it's had the opposite effect that I think they intended. It didn't make me more curious to learn about Neil Giraldo. It makes me think there's some insecurity going on here because he doesn't need his name on those tour posters because he's not the draw for these shows. Sorry, Neil. All right, I know I'm getting way too hung up on this, and I don't mean Neil any disrespect, and I don't want to be negative about the whole thing. If anyone else agrees that we don't really need Neil's name in the billing for Pat Benatar shows, let me know in the comments. Or if you think I'm wrong, and Neil absolutely does deserve his name credited on the posters, please feel free to let me know in the comments as well. Just keep it civil. All right. That goofy stuff aside, let's talk about their set, because it was great. Pat Benatar's set opened with Shadows of the Night. Great song, one of their best tracks, got the audience's attention immediately. It's a fun sing-along. Great way to open the show. After that was All Fired Up, which is another concert staple for them. And that was followed by Invincible, which Pat dedicated to all her sisters in the audience.
This next song that we're going to do, this next song is for all my sisters out there.
Which is appropriate, given that that is absolutely a song for female empowerment. And it also happens to be my favorite Pat Benatar song. So she definitely dedicated it to all of the women in the crowd, but you know what? It registered with me as well. So what can I say? It's a great song, and it definitely had people singing along, and the energy at the start of their set was very good. After that was a stretch of 3 songs that are a little lesser known from Pat's catalog. At some point in the set, Pat said to the crowd that she was very happy to play the songs that she knows we want to hear, but it was also important to her to play some songs that she's proud of and have a lot of meaning for her. And those tracks were called Promises in the Dark, Come On People, and Dirty Little Secrets. I did enjoy those songs, and I think it's cool that she's making a point to include some deep cuts in her set, given that they are in the opening spot of an arena tour. And typically, bands in those spots keep it to just the hits. And sometimes that means playing it a little too safe. After that portion of the set, Pat went back to some more familiar material, like We Live for Love and Hell is for Children. Both are great songs from her early catalog. We Live for Love is a great vehicle for Pat's vocals, which are still strong, by the way. She sounded great the whole show. And then we wrapped up the show with Love is a Battlefield and Heartbreaker. And when they played Heartbreaker, they did something that they've been doing for years. They did it at the 2012 show I saw, and I love it. In the middle of Heartbreaker, they sing a few lines from Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire. Pat sings a few lines, and then Neil sings a few lines. They jam on that for a few minutes, then they go to the back end of Heartbreaker, and when the song is done, Neil closes the show with an extended guitar jam. Totally takes me back to when I saw them in 2012, where they closed their show the exact same way. Clearly, that is a song they just enjoy playing together, and it's really charming. It's a song that I think most casual fans weren't expecting to hear that night, so it would be a nice surprise. And it fits in really well with everything else they were playing. It was just a good vibe. And then that was it. It was 10 songs over the course of an hour, so I got to give Bryan Adams and his team some credit for giving Pat and Neil enough time to play almost a full set of their own. I guess my only critique of the show would be that the 3-song deep cut section of the night meant that a couple of big hits from this band were left out. There were 3 songs in particular that casual fans might have expected to hear. One was You Better Run. I was really hoping they were going to play that song, because one of my memories from the 2012 show I saw is that before they played You Better Run, Pat talked to the crowd and mentioned that this song was the second ever music video to play on MTV, which is true. And then she talks about how the Buggles, which had the song video Killed the Radio Star, which of course was the first music video played on MTV, that band didn't have a guitar player. So with Pat's song being the second track to ever be played on MTV, that meant that she was the first woman to be played on MTV, and Neil Giraldo was the first guitar player to be played on MTV. That's a cool little fact of music history, and they deserve credit for being early adopters to MTV. But they did not play that song, and another song that they didn't play, which I was actually very surprised by, was We Belong. We Belong was a huge hit for them back in the 80s. It was big on MTV, big on the radio, so I was genuinely caught off guard that they did not play that one in the set. And then the third big song that they did not play was one I knew they weren't going to play, but I'm sure there were some people who didn't expect this. Hit Me With Your Best Shot. That is arguably their most well-known song, but I don't believe they've played that in concert since like 2021. Because in 2022, Pat did an interview with USA Today in which she declared that she was not going to be playing Hit Me With Your Best Shot in concert anymore. And the reason she gave for not playing that song anymore caught a lot of people, including myself, way off guard. So here, I'll read it to you real quick. And we're not doing Hit Me With Your Best Shot, and fans are having a heart attack, and I'm like, I'm sorry. In defense to the victims of families of these mass shootings, I'm not singing it. I tell them, if you want to hear the song, go home and listen to it. The title is tongue-in-cheek, but you have to draw the line. I can't say those words out loud with a smile on my face. I just can't. I'm not going to go on stage and soapbox. I go to my legislators. But that's my small contribution to protesting. I'm not going to sing it. Tough. Tough indeed. In defense to the victims of the families of these mass shootings. So she says she's not going to play Hit Me With Your Best Shot out of respect for victims of gun violence. That is so bizarre that I question its sincerity. And I hate to say it like that because I have a lot of respect for Pat Benatar as an artist. But this is absolutely perplexing because even in the context of the song's lyrics, Hit Me With Your Best Shot is not about firearms in any way. In the song, she sings, put up your dukes and let's get right to it. The metaphor of the song is about boxing. You know, like, come on, punk, take your best shot. Okay, maybe she sings fire away. But again, if we're going to really drill in on this metaphor here, fire away makes me think of a cannon. So I don't want to spend too much time obsessing over this, but that is an extremely bizarre reason to not sing one of your most beloved songs. Not that she's going to see this, but Pat, if you genuinely believe that, I can tell you, no one else is thinking like that. No one is thinking that you're being disrespectful to victims of mass shootings by singing Hit Me With Your Best Shot. No one's even thinking about guns when you're singing that song, for goodness sake. So wherever this is coming from, I don't buy it. But if you're sincere, I wish you'd reconsider. And I know a lot of fans wish you would reconsider because that's a song that people love. And since I was reminded of this, I bought her book on eBay, which is a book I've been wanting to read for a very long time, because I suspect there might be a clearer explanation for what's going on with that song and her somewhere in those pages. Now, she played it when I saw them in 2012, and it was great. And to be perfectly frank, I like the song, but I'm okay with not hearing it. Most of the songs that she played I like more than that. Shadows of the Night, Invincible, Hell is for Children, Love is a Battlefield, and Heartbreaker, I think, are all better songs than Hit Me With Your Best Shot. But again, just thinking of more casual fans that would come to a show like this, I would think a lot of them would be hoping to hear Hit Me With Your Best Shot. All right, I've talked about that enough. I started this review with a little criticism, and I'm closing it with a little criticism. So to be perfectly clear, don't let that cloud my main point about Pat Benatar's set. I thought she was great. I thought the band was fantastic. High marks through the whole show. Very enjoyable. If they come to your town, I highly recommend going to see them. Okay, Bryan Adams. This was the first time I've ever seen Bryan Adams in concert, and I won't bury the lead. He killed it. He was fucking great. And I say this as someone who doesn't know most of his catalog. I only know the greatest hits for Bryan Adams, and a couple of those greatest hits are songs that I cannot stand, and I'll talk about that in a bit. But even factoring that in, I thought his set was great from start to finish, because I could tell that every aspect of the show is something he put a great deal of consideration into. And when it's obvious that an artist is making every effort to deliver as much value to the fan experience at a concert, I have a lot of respect for that. I have a lot of appreciation for that. I was just really impressed by the presentation of the whole show, and it made for a very enjoyable night. So I'm not going to go down the set list and talk about every single song because, to be honest, I'm not familiar with most of these songs. I'll mention a couple of highlights, but I want to put more focus on the things he did to amp up the fan experience at this show. For starters, as soon as we went into the venue, everyone was given a wristband. And these wristbands were all light up devices. So through the night, at various parts of various songs, these wristbands would flash lights or turn a color and hold on that color. They just made for a great visual for the whole audience because so many people were wearing them. And when they would light up, people would put up their wrists, so it'd be even more visible. It's not something that I would want at every concert I go to, but a one-off like this, again, made for some cool visuals, got people a little more engaged, and it was one of those things where he doesn't have to do that. Nobody has to do that, but it does add a little something to the experience. So that was pretty cool. Another thing that was very cool was how he started the show. For the first two songs of the set, he played them on a B stage that was at the back of the arena. So he was playing right up to the part of the audience that was the farthest away from him. It was two acoustic numbers, Can't Stop This Thing We Started, and Straight from the Heart. Straight from the Heart was a big sing-along moment. And it was such a cool way to open a show. I've never seen an artist open a show like this before. Like, I've seen bands do songs on B stages before. Typically, when that happens, it's like at the very end of the show. But Bryan doing it at the start of the show sure seemed to send a message that he wanted the people in the back of the venue to feel included right away. And it very noticeably surprised a lot of people when he just ran out onto this B stage, kind of without warning. The lights stayed up when he came out there. And hearing the people around me react with this happy surprise was a really positive way to get the show going. So major props to Bryan for that. I thought that was a stellar way to start the show. So the first song from the main stage was one I was not familiar with called Kick Ass, but after that were two of my absolute favorites, Run to You and Somebody. Somebody in particular is a great sing-along. Everybody was standing at this point, and the energy was high. After that was the title track for his new album, Roll with the Punches. He's clearly working very hard to promote this album, and one of the things that happened while he was playing this song was that a giant inflatable blimp-size boxing glove, which looked like it was powered by drones, came out and buzzed around the top of the arena. And that was a pretty cool visual. And also not the only inflatable thing that came out and flew around at some point during the show. After that song was another one that I think that's newer called 18 Till I Die. That was a song that just had lyrics that registered with a lot of people in the audience. It's a song about getting older, but not feeling older. And I think that absolutely meant a lot to the people in the crowd in that moment, because I will say it was definitely an older crowd, but I have to imagine that seeing a great band from your youth play an awesome show absolutely would make you feel young again. So that was a cool song, and I liked seeing how the crowd reacted to it. After that was a couple of songs I wasn't familiar with, but we're getting pretty deep into this set, and everybody was still up on their feet. Then we got another one of my absolute favorite songs of his, It's Only Love, which of course he did as a duet with Tina Turner. And before the song, he talked about what it was like writing that song and sending it to Tina Turner, and what it was like meeting her for the first time.
So I went backstage and I waited around, and I can remember, never forget it, long hallway. At the back of the hallway, I saw this hair coming towards me. It was like a vision. This hair coming towards me. And I could see where is he? Where is he? And then one of the security guards goes, "Oh, it's a little shit over there." I'm going to try and sing both versions, well, actually both parts of the song, Tina's part and my part. And so please be kind, because I ain't no Tina Turner. Okay?
The only thing I would have suggested to him about this song is that when he was bringing the song to a close, it would have been nice if the big screen behind him had just put up a picture of Tina, just for a moment. But to be clear, this is not a criticism, it's just a suggestion. Okay, after that was a song called Shine a Light that I was not familiar with, but that was one where he asked everybody to bring out their cell phone flashlights, and people did that. And then also we had our wristbands going, so there was a lot of audience light for that song. Maybe overdoing it a little bit. If you have the wristbands, I don't think you need to do the cell phone light gimmick, but whatever. And then we got Heaven, which is another big hit for him. And I do enjoy that song, but that song does start to approach the part of his catalog that I'm not crazy about. But I'll get to that in a moment. So now we're at about the halfway portion of the show, and there were a few more songs that I was not familiar with. But as we got to the second half of the show, he played one of his early hits called This Time. But before he played the song, he talked about making the music video for it. And he said to the crowd that he was going to play the music video behind him as he played the song, and then said something about, hey, I don't know if I can keep up with the video, but if I mess up, well, hey, it's my show. I'm allowed to do that. And I thought that was pretty funny. And it was cool to see the old video as he was playing the song. Now, after that was one of the most interesting moments of the night, because he was playing a brand new song, but he did not say the name of the song before he played it. He just said to the crowd,
I come from Canada. Not so far away. And my boys here in my band, we're all Canadians, and we are honored to be here. And I wrote a song for my country recently. I thought I'd play it for you tonight. Let's give it a go.
And it was quickly revealed that the name of this song and the chorus is 51st State, which is a direct reference to Donald Trump saying that Canada should become the 51st state of America. Obviously, that comment did not go over well in Canada, and it annoyed Bryan enough to write a song rebuking that idea. And he did it in a way that I thought was pretty clever. He does not say Trump's name in the lyrics of the song at all. You just know who it's about based on the title. And there was a shot in there about tariffs. Now, people picked up on this as soon as he got to the chorus. I was familiar with this song beforehand, so I was very curious to see what the reaction was going to be. And I'm just going to play you a video of him playing this song in which you hear the audience realize what this song is about. Yeah, did you hear the audience go nuts for that? This played really well to my crowd. Some people were laughing, some people thought it was righteous. So I didn't hear anybody bitching and moaning. I didn't see any sour faces in my section. Part of the lyrics are about how it's best when America and Canada are closely aligned, which is true. He just doesn't understand why the Trump administration is being so antagonistic to what is supposed to be one of our closest allies. And it's like, bro, I'm confused too. So yeah, I thought that song was really cool, and I was very happy to see just about everybody else in that audience feel the same way. A little bit later, we got to a rockabilly portion of the show, which was another thing that I was not expecting, but was pleasantly surprised with. The fun part about that portion of the night is this is where Bryan got the most audience engagement, because somehow he convinced a whole bunch of people in the crowd to take off their shirt and whip it around their heads. And he did that by just suggesting it. He said, for these songs, you either gotta dance or you gotta twerk. I'm not gonna lie, that was a little cringe. Or you gotta do like my buddy here and take off your shirt and whip it over your head. And my cameraman will put you on the big screen if you do, or something like that. And right away, there were a couple of guys close to the stage in the crowd who had taken off their shirts and were whipping it around their head. And then more people through the arena started doing it. and the cameraman was finding them in the crowd and putting them on the big screen. What I'm describing, I'm sure, does not sound all that much fun to some people, but I tell you, in the moment, it's that right level of stupid fun. And then after that, he played Twist and Shout, which is like the mother of all sing-alongs. So here we are, getting close to the end of the show, and the energy in the place is almost at a maximum. Everybody is having a really great time. And this is what I'm talking about when I say I respect how much thought and care Bryan and his team put into these shows, because that stuff just doesn't happen by accident. This is someone who knows how to get a crowd engaged and is willing to do what it takes to get that reaction. And as we're at the back end of the set, most of these last songs were pretty big hits. You had Cuts Like a Knife and The Only Thing That Looks Good on Me Is You. Both are fun. And then after that was perhaps his biggest hit of all time, Everything I Do It For You. I don't want to be a negative Nancy here, but I hate that song. I do not like that subgenre of 90s adult contemporary, particularly from guys who are more known for their classic rock stuff. I'm talking about guys like Phil Collins and Rod Stewart and Sting and even Don Henley at points, who all have these 90s adult contemporary ballad songs, and I don't like almost any of them. But I can appreciate that there were a lot of people around me who absolutely enjoyed it. It's just a song that does nothing for me. I remember there's an episode of Family Guy where Stewie sings it and makes a big joke out of the whole thing, and that's kind of how I feel about the song. So what can I say? It didn't work for me. Thankfully, it didn't last too long, because one thing I haven't noted yet is that Bryan and his band are not wasting time on any of these songs. He's not doing a lot of talking in between songs, and there's no indulgent solos in any of these songs. So what that means is a 2-hour set that includes 26 songs. All right, so I stuck around for Everything I Do because he had one more song I absolutely needed to hear before the night was done, and that, of course, is Summer of '69. One of the greatest songs of the 80s. One of the first songs that I ever loved as a kid. This is sort of a weird childhood memory I have, but I grew up watching a lot of TV shows and movies that were taped off TV. So as a kid, I had this VHS tape, which had some movie I liked on it. But on the back end of the tape were a series of music videos that my parents must have taped off MTV or VH1 or something. And because it was on this tape that I liked to watch, I would often watch those music videos too. So seeing those music videos as a kid meant that those were some of the first songs I ever loved. And the ones I remember are Obsession by Animotion. That was not a song that my parents wanted to see 10-year-old me singing along with. There was Sussudio by Phil Collins. There was Summer of '69. And I think the other one was Born in the USA. But of those four, my favorite was absolutely Summer of '69 because it had that great guitar riff and the music video is really cool. So that's a song that means a lot to me, and I, of course, was so happy to see him play it. And once he finished that song, that was it for me, because the last song of the night was All for Love, which is a song he did with Rod Stewart and Sting for, I believe, the Three Musketeers soundtrack. That is another one of those 90s adult contemporary songs that I absolutely dislike and cannot stand, so I didn't stick around for that. As soon as Summer of '69 was over, I went to the aisle and headed out of the venue. And I was as happy with that show as I could be, even with a couple of songs that I'm not crazy about being included in the set. That doesn't affect my grade of this show at all, which is an easy A. This was a fantastic show. A lot of great music, a lot of interesting elements to the show. And most of all, it was just so obvious that Bryan and his team put a great deal of thought and care into the details around the show to deliver as many songs as they can in a 2-hour window while doing different and fun things all throughout the show to get the fans engaged, like the wristbands, like opening the show on the B stage, like the multiple inflatables flying around the top of the venue, be at the part of the show where he gets people to swing their shirts around their heads. All that stuff is clearly the result of someone who wants to maximize the level of fun that everybody in the venue is having. And I have just so much appreciation and respect for that. So, yeah, Bryan Adams, absolutely great. And Pat Benatar Neil Giraldo before him, also great. This was a very fun night out for me. And I will have to say, one of the best shows I've seen all year, which is not saying nothing because this has been a really good year for concerts for me. If Bryan Adams comes to your town, I absolutely recommend going to see him. If he comes back around my neck of the woods, I'll be there. If you want to see Bryan Adams on this tour, that man is not slowing down. He's going to Canada for the next leg of the tour. I know he's got a Las Vegas residency coming up. And then I think he's playing in Australia and in all corners of the world. I think I saw that he's got a date in Kazakhstan, which is like, wow, man, you are really trying to get the word out about this new album. But hey, I appreciate the hustle. So if you've seen Bryan on this tour, please tell me what you thought in the comments below. And please also check out some of the other reviews I've done on this channel. If you're a fan of classic rock, I guarantee I've talked about a different band or artist that you're a fan of. And if you are that fan of classic rock, please check out the podcast I do. It's all about classic rock. We've had a lot of fantastic guests on this year, and we have a lot more cool stuff coming up down the road. So please stay tuned for that. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching this video. Go see Bryan Adams or Pat Benatar if they come to your town, and keep rocking.